Good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Prince Hall Think Tank, a monthly conversation amongst Prince Hall Freemasons where we discuss topics relative to craft masonry. My name is Brother Antonio Caffey, and I'm a very proud past master of St. Mark's Lodge number 7, located in Columbus, Ohio, where presently Worshipful Brother Michael Liggins serves as Worshipful Master. Our lodge was granted a charter in the year of 1852 by the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Ohio, where currently the Honorable Robert Estelle serves as Most Worshipful Grand Master. Before I let the other brothers introduce themselves, I would like to state that the views and opinions that are expressed by us this evening in no way reflect the views and opinions of the lodges and Grand Lodges in which we hold membership in. Also, if you have not already done so, please go ahead and make sure that you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can stay up to date with the Think Tank. Also, if you have any questions, comments as we reflect this evening, or just your views, please go ahead and put that in the chat. And if we have time near the end of our show this evening, we'll make sure that we get to them. Brother Morgan will be joining us sometime later in the show, but at this time, I'll let the brothers introduce themselves, starting with Brother Gillarm.
All right. Good evening. My name is Past Master Dave Gillarm. I am a past master of the Mount Pisgah Lodge, number 53, located in Columbus, Georgia. The Royal Line Island serves as our worship master, and I also had the pleasure of serving as the worshipful grand historian for the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge, Georgia, where the Honorable Prime Minister T. James serves as our Most Worshipful Grand Master. As always, it's always a pleasure to be here. And I'm looking forward to it's our 10-year anniversary show. And looking forward to the next 10 years. Hopefully, we'll be seeing some more brothers on for the next 10 years. But definitely looking forward to the show tonight.
Definitely. Brother Jack.
Good evening to all. Brother Damian Jack, proud past master of Paul Drayton Lodge number 7, where currently Worshipful Brother Malcolm McClendon serves as our worshipful master. Our lodge is a constituent lodge under the auspices of the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of North Carolina, where the Honorable Daniel L. D.T. Thompson serves as our 24th Most Worshipful Grand Master, where I have the honor and pleasure of serving as the Worshipful Grand Orator. It is an honor and pleasure to be with you today. Looking forward to this show as we celebrate not only 10 years, but we also celebrate 240 years of Prince Hall Masonry. So looking forward to a great show.
True indeed. So, as these my two esteemed brothers have alluded to, season 10, we're here celebrating the 10th season of the Prince Hall Think Tank, as well as the 240th anniversary of the granting of the charter to African Lodge number 459, empowering it to work. It hasn't. I definitely was aware, and especially Brother Jack pointed this out in a message to us as far as how this all lined up, which I didn't even realize that until he had said it. And I looked at the calendar. I said, wow, not only does it line up with the granting of the charter, it also lines up with the first show, because we literally did it, which we'll get into a little later, to to commemorate the issuing of that charter. But it's really hard to believe that for 10 seasons, we've been bringing you Masonic light, some laughs, our views, and just discussing hot topics within the craft. So tonight, we're just going to celebrate by taking a look back over the 9 seasons, going in our 10th, and also get your views as well. We're interested in what your views are and your thoughts about the show, and the shows that we've had, and share a few memories of the show as well. So to start us off, I have a brief slide deck that I'd like to share, where it just goes into a little bit of the history of the Prince Hall Think Tank and how we got started. So hopefully everyone can see that. All right. So when you're discussing the Prince Hall Think Tank, before we get into the actual think tank as an entity itself, we have to go back and talk about the Corey Adams Lodge of Research and Education. So in 2014, during the 165th Grand Communication of the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Ohio, the Corey Adams Lodge of Research and Education was formed by dispensation by Most Worshipful Brother Darrell R. Smith. This lodge provided its members and other members of the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Ohio an opportunity to come together to discuss topics relative, to the craft, and with Ohio being an emphasis of that research and education. I was actually honored to serve as the first worshipful master of this lodge. In our brief history, we were able to focus the attention of members of the jurisdiction on Masonic education, which was our sole purpose, and how it can positively impact one's life. One of the things that we prided ourselves in was just being innovative in how we delivered Masonic education. This led to our first major venture. So the anniversary of the granting, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, the anniversary of the granting of the Charter of African Lodge number 459 was fastly approaching in the year 2015. And I really wanted to find a different way to look at the impact of that lodge and Prince Hall Freemasonry. So I wanted to facilitate a conversation between knowledgeable brothers. So I contacted brothers Dave Gillarm, Ken Collins, and James Morgan, who I either interacted with on online within various Masonic Facebook groups, or who was actually recommended to me by brothers that I trust, because I really wanted to not only have knowledgeable brothers, it was all about also providing a platform, and you'll hear me use that word a lot tonight. Creating a platform for brothers to let the world know that, when it comes to Masonic research, Prince Hall Freemasonry, we really have some heavy hitters. So I let them know about my idea and asked if they join me, and these brothers graciously agreed. So then on October 29th, 2015, we had our first conversation. These brothers provided a lot of great information that night. Our viewers not only enjoyed the conversation, but they also showed us a lot of grace as we worked through a lot of technical difficulties as well, because all of this was very new to us, contrary to now where everyone had, different type of shows online and blogs stuff. Back then, just in 2015, it was fairly a new concept. So, we were still trying to work through the kinks while we were actually broadcasting the show. So I often, every now and then in our present shows, I'll go back and just, remind folks that we've come a long way in regards to the technology and how we're better at it now. But, and I also go back and view that show periodically just it gives me a sense of pride to see where we've, where we've come from and to where we're at. So I facilitated, I really want to facilitate a conversation amongst these brothers, and they definitely, provided the spark that we needed. So as one of the interesting things though, so as I was interacting with them about this show, and initially it was going to be just a one and done, I had actually in my mind said, you know what, I think I may want to do this on an ongoing basis, but I was actually thinking about, continuing to do this from the as the Corey Adams Lodge of Research, because if you notice with this flyer, this wasn't a Prince Hall think tank show. This particular show was through the Corey Adams Lodge of Research. So at the end of this conversation, I hadn't really shared that aspect with the brothers that I was, basically going to do this again, but I was going to maybe consider some other brothers and just having a rotating panel. The thing is, at the end of this show, after we, finished the show and we started talking, and his brother was like, you know what, we should do this again. And just continue to do this. And I said, you know what, yeah, why? Yeah, we do have some other knowledgeable brothers out there. I want to showcase them and give them that platform. But these brothers, in a very short period of time, gained my trust, and they knew exactly what I envisioned and wanted to do. So it was one of those things where it was like, yo, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And I think we had a real, a real good formula for doing this. So we decided to start our venture as the Prince Hall Think Tank, with our first show being the next month, in October, where we did had a conversation just about Masonic research and different ways that you can research the history and the craft. We many of you who may follow us, some of you may be aware of the how we came about our name, the actual Prince Hall Think Tank. I think it was after, brothers can correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember that after we did that first show, Brother Tony James, who we've tried to for years to get on the show. So if you have some influence, if you know this brother or Brother James, if you're looking at us tonight, yo, we need you on this show. But I remember go ahead, bro.
I know. I said, first of all, good evening. Excuse my tardiness, everybody. Well, I'm going to start a petition online. We're going to start taking signatures to get Tony James on the show.
There it is.
Absolutely. That'll be my first. My signature will be first.
Yep. So he actually made a comment, and like someone, I think we had just, was recapping the conversation that we had from the Surveying the History and Future of Prince Hall Freemasonry. And he made a comment. It was like, hey, you all are, a think tank, you're a Prince Hall think tank. And we said, yo, that sounds, that's a real nice name. Let's go with that. So that's how the name was birthed. And we owe Brother James a great deal of thanks and for coining that term. So again, our first show, as the Prince Hall Think Tank, aired on October 25th, 2015. Yeah. So interesting tidbit. So as our first show was on October 25th, sometime after our first show, I actually went on what I term a hiatus from the craft for a while. And we had decided that in no means would that stop us from carrying on and doing the show, but we needed another brother to come on board to assist us in doing this. So we asked Brother Preston Collins Jr. to come on board. I knew this brother because he had helped start the Corey Adams Lodge of Research and Education with me in Ohio. I knew him to be a very knowledgeable brother, and definitely a brother that could add on to what we were doing. So we asked him to come on and be to host a show with us and to be a part of it, and he definitely agreed, and was a very, very valuable asset to the show. So we thank him for his time. Yeah. So after that, another interesting show that we had during this time occurred on February 28th, 2016. It's when Brother Damian Jack joined us, I believe, for the very first time as a special guest. We had no idea all the way back then that, a few years later, that brother would become a permanent host. And again, he definitely, that night and that evening, what he talked about, and obviously him coming on board was also a huge get for us to have him be a part of the team as well. So in January 2017, Brother Collins left the show, and we added Brother Curtis Black as a host. This brother, again, was a very knowledgeable brother, and viewers definitely benefited from his Masonic insight as well. in November 2017, I returned from my hiatus, and I was actually very thankful for the brothers, because they not only, it was amazing, they not only maintained the Prince Hall think tank, but they elevated it to new heights. From, you know, it wasn't just about the research that they were conducting and presenting, but I'm real particular, both within the craft and also in my professional life too, when it comes to presentation. Because I've always believed that you can have the greatest information in the world, but if you can't present it to where people can understand it, then what's the point in even presenting it? So these brothers, you know, while I was gone, they just really demonstrated an ability to uh, take sometimes complex concepts and issues and different things within the craft and make them easily to be understood for our viewers. So again, I'm always grateful for those brothers being able to do that. During the 2019 season, Brother Ken Collins, who was one of our original panelists, informed us that he was departing the show. So we enlisted Brother Damian Jack, as I mentioned earlier, to come on board as our one of our new brothers to help us do this, and he's been with us ever since, and just doing amazing work. And not only in all of these brothers, not only presenting the information during our show, but as many of you know, these brothers travel throughout the country, lecturing and writing books and publish. These brothers are published authors, and just they're doing a lot of different things. So for me to be associated with them is I count that as one of my things that I'm most proud of within the craft. But definitely being able to get that brother to regularly contribute to the cause was a real big get for us. One of the things that, and you heard me mention this earlier, one of the things that we've always been proud of is offering a platform to showcase the talents that we have within the Prince Hall family when it comes to research. So in March of 2019, we held our first OES takeover show. These sisters did an excellent job with their presentation and information, and we've been able to do this show a few times since then, and we're giving the sisters an opportunity to inform the world about the rich history of OES and the research that exists with the order within the Prince Hall Order of the Eastern Star as well. So definitely looking forward to continuing to have that type of show where they take over and they present that information, present their research and information. And we definitely have that on the books again for one of our shows. One of the most important shows, in my opinion, that we conducted occurred in June of 2020. You know, as you recall, with the murder of George Floyd, the United States was dealing with a lot of racial unrest. Freemasonry as a whole had been quiet on the matter, and the brothers and I decided to do a show that focused on the history of activism within Prince Hall Freemasonry. Little did we know that even before the show aired, there were conversations that were being had soon as we released the flyer, which the flyer that you're seeing now wasn't, it actually was the original flyer, the flyer that we had to take that down and rework it and put another flyer out. But when we put that flyer out, all of our phones started ringing, both from within and outside of our jurisdictions. But I really stand on making the decision to do this show. One of the interesting things that came out of this was, a prominent brother who runs a Masonic blog who will go unnamed. He actually wrote an article, which basically stated that, those that uh, you know believe in Black Lives Matter or the Black Lives Matter persuasion should separate their membership, their Masonic membership, and their political views. So our very own brother James Morgan wrote a brilliant piece entitled "What to the Prince Hall Freemasonry is the 4th of July: Why Black Masonic Masonry Matters," and it was the and which I think we can post that in the group, either tonight or tomorrow, but we'll make sure that we get that out again to folks. But it was a brilliant answer to what this other brother had put forth, and I really appreciated how Brother Morgan approached this, and how he again, it's about reminding, and it's sad that we have to do this, but reminding brothers of the craft that we have some researchers, some hardcore researchers that are good at what they do, and they can let you know in a very intellectual way that they're good at what they do. So I appreciated that brother for doing that. And this show and conversation, it was important to have, and we weren't going to shy away from having it. So when it comes to numbers, just a couple stats. So we've had, actually, since our beginning, we've had about 98 shows. Our videos have been viewed over 370 times on YouTube. And the interesting thing is, if you look at our numbers, when it comes to our most viewed episode, and when I did the research and I found out what it was, I really wasn't surprised, because it's just if for those of you who have either been with us or those who've been in the craft for a while can think back to the old. We always sometimes refer back to the Blue Light days, which was an email listserv ran by Ezekiel Bay, whose shoulders we stand upon, and other email groups. One of the most, like, when you talk about topics and you want to get people fired up, it's anytime you talk about clandestine masonry. So this clandestine masonry, the greatest lie ever told, has been our most viewed video so far. So it's just a very short, quick look at the just a little bit of background on the think tank, where we've been, how we got to where we're at today. Again, celebrating going into our 10th season. So, brothers, I'll open it up to you. What are your thoughts about things?
Well, I guess I'll speak.
Go ahead.
Being the youngest in the show, I will definitely say that it has been beyond an honor and a pleasure to be a panelist on this show, to actually go from a guest to a panelist. The what I have learned from the three of you definitely is something that has really excelled in my Masonic journey and my life period. I thank you for even thinking of me to even be a part of what I consider to be history. Um, Something that, wherever we go, I know James and Dave can attest to this. When we go somewhere and and they say, is that you? Are you the one that's on the Prince Hall think tank? Somebody may, next to him may ask, what's the Prince Hall think tank? And you never heard the Prince Hall think tank? And there's a whole, it gets to a whole, big discussion. So I never forget, just recently back in June, My wife and I were down in Florida for the Desert of Florida's Gala Day, and walked into the room. We was getting ready for the meeting, and two brothers were sitting there, two nobles were sitting there, and just walk past them and say, "Hey, how you doing?" And I could hear them say, "Is that Damien Jack?" And so they come, "Excuse me, are you?" And they say, "Yeah," and it's like, "Oh, Prince Hall think tank and everything like that." So it's been a beautiful experience. So and Calf, I always tell you this, um, you know, you have excelled my journey in ways that you don't even understand. Um for those that don't know, one of the first ever poems that I ever did was written by past Master Caffey in the name of I Am Prince Hall Freemasonry. Those of you who follow me on social media know that I just recently um, put that poem back out on video. And he said that I think he did it, Caff. I think you said you did it back in the '90s, so it's a little over 30
Yeah.
years old. And the first time I ever saw the poem was on a website that we were both on called Divine Nine Online, and I found that poem and I found his email address, and I asked him for permission to recite the poem, and I recited it here in Charlotte for Prince Hall Day. I did that for 2 years, and then another brother saw it, and um, he had me. I was able to do it at Grand Lodge during a Grand Lodge session, and it just catapulted from there. So, indirectly, Brother Caffey has really um, exalted my Masonic journey to where it is now. So I thank you not only for this platform, but for your influence as well, because of you, I am where I am. So thank you very much for that opportunity.
Thank you, good brother.
Yeah, I guess I'll jump in there. So first of all, again, good evening, everyone. This is Past Master James R. Morgan III coming to you all. I apologize for my tardiness. I think I know I haven't been on every single episode, but I don't think I've ever been late to an episode. I don't think. But so I apologize about that. I'm just getting off the road from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I was attending the Association for the Study of African American Life and History's 109th annual conference. I actually serve on the executive committee there, so I apologize again for my tardiness. Matter of fact, Brother Caffey, I think that you know something about Carter G. Woodson, because your Omega Psi Phi brothers were there, and they held it down and they had a nice little panel on him yesterday, so I got to attend that and everything. But to answer the question, the Prince Hall think tank is something that's very near and dear to me. While Brother Jack may be the youngest in terms of tenure in this endeavor, I have consistently been the youngest in terms of actual age, actual years on this earth. And so for me, it's definitely been kind of a part of my coming of age, just not only as a Mason, but also as a man. When the show started, I was actually, I think, about 24 years old. And I was senior warden of my lodge on that very first episode. I might have just turned 25, maybe. But be that as it may, I actually was senior warden when we first started, and then I became worshipful master, right, basically almost right in front of you all's eyes, and have matured and things of that nature. And so I definitely appreciate the fact that we have been able to grow closer as friends and as brothers, and I can definitely attest to what Brother Jack was saying about being out and being recognized places. I remember my first time in Charleston, South Carolina. I was actually at a live music event, and I was walking and I saw another brother, and I don't even think I had anything Masonic on it, but I know he did. And I walked up to introduce myself to him, and I remember he said, "Oh, I know who you are. How you doing, Past Master Morgan?" And that's when I kind of knew. I was like, wow, like the show really has made it so that I will never have an empty friend request box on Facebook ever again. But that's all good. Literally from that first episode to today, my friend request box has been overloaded on Facebook to the point where it just is what it is. But I love it, and I appreciate all the love and support that we've gotten. It definitely, this show has definitely made me more cognizant of the responsibility that I think that we have as Prince Hall Masons, and for the sisters as well, because I'm a firm believer that this thing does not belong to me, does not belong to us. We're just holding on to it for those who are coming behind us, and so trying to make sure that we can present the best information possible, make sure that we can make the show as entertaining as possible, um, and that we can really take this thing to the next level. Um, it has been a real honor and a real privilege, and the fact that we've done things that, not to bring up old history, but the fact that, like as Brother Kathy mentioned earlier, we've done things that have had, you know, most worshipful grandmasters and past grandmasters, got them talking in private conversation, and even at the conference of grandmasters level, and that we've got, brothers and sisters from other Masonic and fraternal bodies, talking and saying, well, wait a minute, well, on the Prince Hall think tank, Dave Gillarm said this, I mean, I think that's a real powerful testament, not only to us as individuals, but really to the fact that we live in an era where we can utilize this technology to spread light and information. And while I applaud the efforts of other shows and platforms that are out there and whatnot, this is no shade to anybody. I just want to remind everybody that if it had not been for the vision and for the courage of Brother Caffey, to kind of get us together and organize us, this would not be the case. At the time when this show started, there was nothing like this show that serviced the Prince Hall Masonic family, and uh, and so again, I think that that's just a real honor, and it's a real privilege to have to have this um, um, obligation on us as every month. It's a labor of love, but at the end of the day, it has to be done. I'll never forget. I'll say this now. I'll pass it on so Dave can speak. But I'll never forget. About 2 or 3 years ago, um, I was in the jurisdiction of Pennsylvania, and a brother walks up to me and says, "Hey, are you the James Morgan?" And I said, "Well, I think so. I don't know if there's another. I mean, there's some other James Morgans out there, but and so I'm like, how can I? What can I do for you?" And the brother basically told me. He said that he was considering joining Masonry, and he wasn't sure if he wanted to, if he was right for him because of how young he was at the time, and whatnot. And then he said, as he was researching different Masonic history and what have you, and trying to understand the difference between Prince Hall, Freemasonry, and the Grand Lodge of Pennsylvania, um, he stumbled upon the Prince Hall think tank, and he said he saw one of our early episodes, and he saw me, and he said, I looked like I could have been in class with him at that particular time, right? And so that made him, want to research our show and look up some of the things we were talking about, but also me. He said I guess he had watched enough episodes where he kind of picked together a lot of my Masonic biography on his own and was like, yeah, like you were junior deacon of your lodge first. So when I got in the lodge, they put me a junior deacon. I was like, wow, I'm going to be like Brother Morgan one day. I mean, that for me was a powerful moment, because I realized I touched that brother's life, and this show has touched that brother's life in a way that, now we're reaching a new generation through this technology. So we don't talk about it often on the show, but we met with some resistance early on. There were some doubters, there were some haters, there were folks who thought that we weren't going to succeed, and did not want us to succeed. But 10 years later, here we are. And so I just give the glory to the grand architect of the universe. And again, it's been a sincere honor and pleasure of my life to be a part of this show and be affiliated with these three brothers here, as well as with our three alumni, brother Black, brother Preston Collins, and brother Ken Collins. It's been a sincere honor and pleasure, my brothers. And if we never speak again, which we're not, which of course we're not going anywhere, but if we never were to speak again, I just want you three to know, and the other brothers, that I love you all from the bottom of my heart. You've helped make me the man that I am today. I don't know if y'all want credit for that or not, but I'm gonna give it to you.
We'll take it, bro. We'll take it. Hey, what you think?
Yeah, it's definitely been a lot of, Brother James said, in the beginning, we had a lot of, I ain't gonna say a lot, but we had some entities against us. then the support that we started to receive. For me, in the state of Georgia, it was our Grandmaster at the time, most past Grandmaster Bruce James. He was definitely supportive of anything we was doing. Right after that, we had most worshipful past Grandmaster Corey Shackelford Sr. He's been through everything. Anytime we need, hit him up, say, would you mind being on the episode? He had no hesitation on doing it. The documentary Terra Masonica, he had no issue doing that.
Hey, Dave, most worshipful past Grandmaster Shackelford is in the chat right now, just as a FYI.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna give him his flowers while you can still smell them. I would say this if he was here. I would say if he wasn't here. He was there 110% throughout everything. Appearing on shows, him, most social grandmaster Corey Hawkins, past grandmaster Sheldon Prescott, numerous other past grandmasters that was on. So we started to see our leadership supporting what we was doing. So it helped push out all that negative energy that we was receiving. And that negative energy just started to go away, and we started to continue doing our thing. And then we started to develop this show into what it was. Like, for example, if you go look at some of the early shows, especially the ending. This was during when Brother Caffey was on his vacation, and we would start doing our closing remarks, and you hear Brother Ken Collins with his Sweet Home Alabama playing in the background. And of course, I would always talk about, y'all know this one was no season. We're gonna start off without me talking about the Knicks. So every time, doing every intro, I was gonna do that at some point in the show anyway. Then I would talk about the Knicks. So we started just have fun with this, and then as Brother Jack stated, just going around and the different places. So if you meet me, which I'm sure quite a few of you that's watching have. If I go visit your lodge, I'm going to introduce myself as Brother Dave Gillarm. That's who I am, Brother Dave Gillarm. And then to get the responses when they sit, like, I don't think I'm just I don't know whoever I'm supposed to be. I'm just the average brother, just like everybody else. And then when somebody says that they watched the Prince Hall thing, they learned X, Y, and Z from it, I feel extremely humbled because we don't get paid to do this. We spend a whole lot of our time and money doing this show. And, we do this out of love for the craft. So it's just I just thank everybody for supporting us over the years. It truly, when we say it means a lot, this truly means a lot. That's what I got so far.
True indeed. So, I mean, looking back over the last, 10 years, what's been that, I guess, that moment or that episode that stands out to you the most? If you can pinpoint it. I'm sure there are more, but like, what's the one?
For me, I'll go and kick it off because I've been thinking about this ever since you start asking the questions. It's the show that we did. Because I think, if I remember correctly, James One came up with the idea about doing a Twin Pillars episode to show the connection between Prince Hall Masonry and the AME Church. And once we did it, especially when I started looking at my own jurisdiction and how the AME Church was so influential in spreading Prince Hall Masonry, and then saw that everybody else was having the same aha moment. That show meant a lot to me, and it also meant a lot afterwards. So I don't know if you remember this. We all received a mystery letter in the mail, whether it came to your house, came to your lodge, or whatever. We still don't know who sent it, but they congratulated us or giving us an award for something for our research that we did on the AME Church and Prince Hall Masonry, and it was still kind of scary how they got those addresses, but it was definitely unique. I didn't complain. Nothing else came with it, but that show meant the most to me because somebody took a whole lot of time out of their day to find those addresses that they found and mail us what they mailed us. So that show probably meant the most to me.
Man, you bringing that up, brother. Might mess around and get something else in the mail, man.
Oh man, what about other brothers? What's been something a standout moment or a standout episode?
I think for myself, it's hard, man, because we've had so many. Um, I would say, one of the things, one of the episodes that I think really stuck out to me is when we had brother Rashid Bey on, and the brother was getting really deep in terms of trying to help brothers understand what Freemasonry is about from a ritualistic and an esoteric perspective. Um, and really trying to, and I can still remember him talking about how certain aspects of ritual are meant to unlock certain portals in your mind and this and that. I mean, we really went to town on that episode, and I think that that's one of the things that really I hope makes us stand out is that while we do. And I think this is, we've been pretty open about this. That one of the biggest criticisms I think that a lot of people have had about us has been that we do a lot of history episodes. Well, you got a lot of historians on here, but Prince Hall Freemasonry is not just about history. We have all aspects of Freemasonry. I'm not going to say we have it covered 100%, but I'm going to say that we put our 100% effort into having it covered. And so that episode really stuck out to me. Another episode that was really special to me was when we did the one on, actually on my book, The Lost Empire, Black Freemasonry in the Old West, which is still available. If you don't have your copy, please go and get that. But that was really special to me in a way because I felt like, that not only had I made this accomplishment, but I felt the support of you brothers as well as of our audience. And that's something that no amount of money, I can't put a price tag on that. We could have easily did an episode on something else. The folks who have purchased books, particularly when it first came out, could have, done other things with their time and money. But the fact that so many brothers and sisters from across the country and indeed internationally at this point took time to support my little project really meant a lot to me. I actually was when I was up in Pittsburgh, I actually had a copy with me and was talking with some folks about it and what have you. And while I think I'm always going to probably hold on to it from in terms of ownership of that particular book. I actually was talking with some university presses, University of Illinois Press, UNC Chapel Hill. I was talking with some university presses about the research and work I've done in Freemasonry, and the fact that I have this book to show, really, helps out quite a bit. But that's a culmination of not only my formal education, but like you said, Brother Caffey, all those blue light chats. I probably was one of the last additions to blue light before that went away. But I also credit our conversations here on the Prince Hall Think Tank with that work as well as other research that I've done. And like I said in the book, and I even said it in my master's thesis, it's the brothers and sisters of this great organization that have supported me, that fuel me to do the things that I've been able to do. So I mean, those are just a couple of moments that really stick out. And I again, I really appreciate everybody's support. And and lastly, I will say that one day, soon, and one day soon, Dave Gillam is going to realize the Knicks ain't going nowhere. Thank you.
Like, Dave, look at you like, how dare you say the audacity.
So, I'll address that later.
Right. There you go. David, what about you?
Ooh, that's the way to end the monologue, I tell you. For me, one of my favorites would have to be, and me and Dave still need to get a drink off of this one, is when we did the episode on Royal and Select Masters. Coming on to the show, I was very nervous in coming on to the show because once again you have three gentlemen who have served their jurisdictions as historians, and when you look at the work and how they present, you can tell the love that they had. I've never necessarily considered myself to be a historian. I've considered myself to be more of a ritualist. Um, but one of the things that I've learned is that as a ritualist, you have to be a historian as well, because you have to go into history. And so um, I was very nervous, coming in, just because my style of presentation was different. I didn't want to be cookie cutter, but I felt like at the time I wasn't on the level that these brothers were. So, but they were very supporting, and how I presented information, and I've learned a lot from them. So when we decided to do, and they had already started the York Right series before I became a panelist. They had already did um, the one on Holy Royal Arch. And so, Royal and Select, of course, is being next. And of course, Dave and myself, being the only illustrious companions, we was like, okay, well, we'll take the wheel on it. And shout out to past Right Grand Thrice Illustrious Master Shah Leggett of the jurisdiction of Virginia, who was the guest on on that show. So Dave and I were putting together the history. He did the Prince Hall side. I did the Grand Lodge Estate side, and boy, did that give us a headache. I mean, that gave us an extreme headache, just trying to piece everything together, understanding that, these degrees within Royal and Select, they were not always together. They were what I think Brother S. Brent Morris has said was degree peddling or pimping for degrees, at that time. Like, not, they weren't all together like that. So when you try to, piece them together and see how they formed, and then there's like different versions of the story, which one are you going to go with? I mean, that gave us a massive headache. And so even what we presented to the audience wasn't the tip of the iceberg. There was so much more that we could have added, but we would have been there all night. So um that was my favorite show, because I would say that was the hardest one at the time that I had to put together and present. And it just for me, it showed me, that I could, go um beyond my own limits. So, of course I, enjoyed that. Um of course, being biased, the show that I was on as a guest, um just because, putting yourself out there and putting my first book out, and James knows this, when you put yourself out there, you have to be comfortable with the level of vulnerability, and putting yourself out there, because you put yourself out there to comments, critiques, criticism, things of that nature. And so just to have the support from the think tank, to help support and promote that, was definitely appreciative of that. So those would have been my two favorite shows. And Dave, I don't know when we gonna get together, man, but we still got to go get that drink, man. Seriously.
True indeed.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. That show, like, I think I just referred to it not too long ago when somebody asked me about the Prince Hall York Right history. Gosh, man, that show was so many different levels, and doing the research. I think between me and you, we learned so much about Royal and Select
Hmm.
afterwards. Like right now, we're used to the colors being purple, and originally it was red. At least
Hmm.
for Prince Hall Base, it was red, and that's come straight from the Constitution. So that show was something serious.
Yep. Absolutely.
And you raise a good point too, and it's happened several times, and again, this is something that we haven't run from. So, you know, there's history, or what's been put out, as far as, okay, this is what we know up until this point, that happened. It happened this way. Well, through research and ongoing research, sometimes we find out that those things may not be true. And it's one of those things. So as these brothers are researching all of this stuff, and it's like, wow, okay, well, we discovered this. Well, do we sit on it or do we just put it out there? And 9.9.9 times out of 10, it's like, yo, we need to correct the record, or at least, start the correcting the record and putting the information out there. We always saw that as one of our duties to not, hide stuff, or to um believe, not necessarily believe in something without verifiable proof of verifiable information. So we've always prided ourselves in, and again, having brothers on, these brothers, and having other guests on, they really told maybe a different story that or a newer story, corrected story based on research, so that the record can be corrected, because we saw that as one of our chief duties as well. Um, some of you hit on it earlier, and some of your opening comments, but how do you think the think tank? How do you think it's influenced the Masonic community, and beyond? What have you
a,
seen?
a lot. I've had inboxes from um, brothers who the most recent that I received was a brother who was raised in '89, and watching the think tank made him, start back. He had, let go of masonry for a while, and then, watching the think tank um, started him to want to, it reignited his zeal, and, to get back into the craft. And um, he, thanked us for just the shows that we put out. One brother hit me up and is actually still, I have to check on him. We exchanged phone numbers, but at the time he messaged me. He was a fellow craft, and and said, I'm becoming a Mason because of, and so you get a lot of those messages of what the think tank has done, um, for them, for their Masonic journey. Certain things that you know um, brothers are still looking for. Especially when we talk about the history versus the narrative. I'll put that out there that they're still looking for that KT episode. I told them that'll be our series finale. Because they ain't ready for that. They ain't ready for that one. But yeah, I think what has been done over the last 10 seasons has really not only sparked a lot of conversation as far as Prince Hall Masonry, but I think as far as Freemasonry period. Just having also brothers like brother S. Brett Morris on, brother Moises Gomez, brother Daniel Tristan, things of that nature, and show what Freemasonry is about. The fact that we are Freemasons who happen to be a part of Prince Hall affiliation. So, I think um, a lot of people have that understanding now, and if they don't, they know where they can go to get that information. So,
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that it's great that we've been able to um, become a face. I won't say that we're the face, but to become a face of Prince Hall Masonry, at least to a certain demographic, um, and also to be able to kind of help build bridges, right? I think sometimes that we get off into the history so much of um, of racial segregation within American Freemasonry, to the point where it's like, okay, even though you have this thing called recognition, where at what point do we start building bridges? Because as Masons, that's what we're called to do, is to build, right? Um, So the fact that we've been able to interact both online as well as informally with brothers from other shows such as the Masonic Roundtable, right? We think about the Lighthouse. We think about all these other shows that exist out there now, and that we're from our perspective we're able to reach out, interact with those brothers. I just got back a couple of weeks ago. I was out in Kansas City, Kansas, with the brother from Historical Light, right? And so again, it's one of those things where we are constantly building bridges, and that's something I think that again brothers have to remember. Sisters have to remember. Prior to our show, I'm not gonna say the bridges weren't there, but they in some aspects they were a little rickety. In some aspects they needed some tending to. And the fact that we're able to come together, debate, and discuss. I mean, we've also given. I think one thing that needs to be discussed a little bit more. We've given, and I think I've been a big advocate for this. We've given a platform to those brothers and sisters, particularly who have become authors over the years, right? And so that their works can get out there, not just mine, not just Damien's, but other brothers and sisters who are writing and publishing books relative to Freemasonry. Um, let's talk, let's engage, let's criticize, let's constructively critique, right? And have these conversations, but also give them a platform to tell their stories. So whether it's brothers like John Hairston or brother Steve Baptista, whether it's brother Lawrence Henry, these are just some of the names I'm throwing out there who've done some dynamic work, right? In some aspects have done some controversial work. I'm not just talking about those three brothers, I'm just saying just in general, right? But regardless, let's hear the brothers and sisters out about what they have to say before and I think sometimes we have a bad habit in the community of someone puts something out there, whether it's a Prince Hall think tank show or what have you, or a new book. And sometimes we have a bad habit of wanting to jump on people and negate something without properly considering it. And I think that what we've done is we give those folks a platform to present their findings, present their thoughts, and I think that that's really valuable because I'm not always necessarily in the business of convincing people to believe something, but I do believe we should have the conversations, and I'm glad that Prince Hall Think Tank has been a platform for those conversations.
All right, mine will be very brief. I think it was Right Worshipful Deputy Grandmaster Linwood Givens from the Prince Hall Grand Lodge of South Carolina that mentioned it. It could have been another brother about there was a particular district in South Carolina that were using our episodes for their educational symposiums within that district, and I thought that was amazing. And I think brother James brought it to us, brother Morgan, that a particular jurisdiction contacted him about using our episodes in their upcoming educational curriculum. So to me, it's always amazing to get any type of pat on the back, but to know that what we're doing and people are using what we're doing to educate other brothers is always just amazing to me.
Yeah, and I know for me, I echo everything that these brothers said. One other thing, I knew we had arrived when I think my daughter was in middle school. Middle school, she had just started high school at the time, and she said, "Daddy, some of my friends saw some of your videos online, and they said, Kendall, your dad seems real smart. Is he a professor or something?" So I said, "Yeah, we're good now. We got this generation checking us out. They don't understand what we're talking about, but yo, they're looking at the video."
And I think that's a testament right there, right? I mean, I mentioned earlier about how I've kind of grown up in front of the camera as far as the show is concerned. But I mean, I really judge how long the show's been going on by your kids. I mean, we don't, the audience doesn't see them, of course, but but we've seen them and whatnot. I mean, you talk about how she was in middle school at that time, and now she's down here at Howard University, at my alma mater. I'm like, man, has it really been that long? But it has.
Yeah, and it ends up being a blink of an eye. Which again, I was telling when we first got on, I was just still just I'm amazed that we're at this point. And one of the things too that that really, like with how the technology and what we use and YouTube and everything. One of the things that I really thought about was how can this, I wanted something, somehow I wanted it to survive past us, and with and I didn't, and again, it didn't hit me until when I was doing research for the brief presentation I put on earlier, when I looked at the number of views that all of our videos have gotten, because sometimes people can join us live and sometimes they can't, but they can go back to it. They can get to it when they can, or they can replay it, when they can, or they can show it or recommend it to someone, so like we've created, within these, going into this 10th season, we've created this repository of Masonic information that can be continued to be studied, looked at and critiqued, and in some instances, but it really, I think it's a testament to our ability to really capture that and really place Prince Hall Freemasonry. I'm sure I've said it on this show. I know brothers in my lodge, they get tired of me when I tell that whole story about, like, when we talk about, Prince Hall Freemasonry and the use of modern technology, and how sometimes there can be this, this tussle within the craft of updating the way that we do certain things. And I always say, well, like, think about it. At one point in time, there was a huge argument in the lodge where you have some brothers that wanted to continue to use the printing press, and some brothers that wanted to use this brand new apparatus called a typewriter. And it's like, we've taken this modern technology and we've allowed it to further, the craft and educate the craft, and used it to do those things as well. So some of the brothers that alluded to just, the friendships that we formed and working relationships that we formed within the craft. What's been the, let's talk about that for a second. What's been the most rewarding aspect of working together as a team, man, as co-hosts?
Me, even though I wasn't able to fully achieve it, the time that Brother Morgan hit me up, I think was trying to find his 3-time or 4-time great grandfather's grave. 3-time great grandfather's grave. So to go there to the town to try to find a cemetery, and I ended up walking the entire thing, didn't find anything. Come to find out that the cemetery had a quote unquote black and a white section, same name, different sections, and the section for the black people was in the woods. So getting the sheriff from the town involved as well, and and having everybody, because it was like a small little deli that I was talking about this in, to have everybody involved to try to find this grave. And the sheriff ultimately said, "Hey, if you don't have a weapon," which I called James, but I was like, "You don't have a weapon, you probably need to go in there because you're gonna run into something that you probably don't want to run up on, right. And you need to have some high boots on." So to do that, I don't know, because I think we would go to those type of lengths for each other. We help each other with research stuff all the time, and it's just that level of friendship. And anytime, if I'm remotely close, like I plan on going to see the Knicks beat the Hornets this year, and when I get into Charlotte, I'm gonna call Damien, so to make sure that he understands that what just happened, or what's about to happen. But
first of all, I'm not a Hornets fan, so I mean, you're not going to get that type of reaction out of me. So I mean, we can still. Anyway. I mean, we can still go. Listen, we can still go. I just want you to know, like, you're really not going to get no reaction out of me unless y'all lose. Then there'll be a different reaction.
It won't happen. But I would do that anytime we're remotely close to each other. Like, just try to link up and have lunch or do something. We talk to each other regularly. I mean, I think we have a bond now that's going to last until we're no longer on this earth.
No doubt about it. What I would say is, I can actually go. I would actually go around to the three of you. I would say I would start off with Dave. I do appreciate what you did for me on that day. And I think one of the rewarding things for me was being able to, because we all know how it feels to, you're looking for something and you just can't get it, you just can't find it or what have you, and maybe you never do. Um, but I remember for a long time that Dave had been trying to find a photo of Reverend Charles L. Bradwell, and I remember he was trying, looking high and low, searching high and low. And one day I'm going through a photograph collection at the Library of Congress online, and what do I find? I found not one, not two, but three photos of Charles L. Bradwell. And I remember I called Dave, and he must have been at work or something. I called him up two, three, four times. And I'm like, man, this the one time I didn't even pick up the phone, he's not picking up. But I remember when he first got it and whatnot, I could hear how excited he was and everything to finally have an image of his brother, and that was really helped. That made me feel good to know that I could help someone else. Again, this is the power of technology and having these type of networks and whatnot. I would say with brother Damien, man, brother Jack's real special to me because he was very supportive of my pursuit of joining Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. I always I'll never forget when I told him, I said, hey man, I've been reading a little bit of the Alpha history book, and he said, well, what you gonna do with it? you know but that really meant something to me. But also the fact that brother Jack has actually come to my jurisdiction. Actually, I think out of three of you, Damien's the only one that's ever actually been to my Grand Lodge, in terms of actual lodge meeting, if I'm not mistaken. So being able to welcome him to DC, and he's taking me in Charlotte. Matter of fact, he took me to see the grave of Caesar R. Blake. That was something that was definitely special to me, the first time I was in Charlotte. And then of course with brother Caffey, you might laugh at this one, but it's the truth. I'm the only one here that's actually met Antonio Caffey in person.
The only one.
The only one. And the thing that sticks out to me wasn't the fact that I met Antonio. It was the fact that when I met brother Caffey, he's looking at me saying, dang, I didn't realize you were this tall. And I'm looking at him saying, dang, I didn't realize you were this short. I just knew for years that brother Caffey was taller than me. But no, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you, he is not. He is not. He is definitely not. So matter of fact, like I said, I think brother Gillard might be taller than you, brother Caffey. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Okay, we'll have to see. We'll have to bring out the measuring stick when we all hook up.
Yeah. You know, brother Caffey, you didn't know you were the ace around here.
Right, yeah. I was the ace on my line, so yeah.
There you go.
Good stuff, brothers. Good stuff. I think one of the things too that, and I'm sure other our viewers, who are researchers, can relate to this too. The biggest thing is sometimes like only someone that's really heavy in the research can understand some issues that you have. Sometimes it's like, you're literally combing through, books, proceedings, just different things. And sometimes just for one tidbit of information, and the average person like, well, why are you reading all of that just to get find just that one date or that one photo or that one, and not realizing that one date or one piece of information is like a puzzle, and you're putting together a piece, and that can answer questions that for so long that a lot of people, may either have been trying to ask, or sometimes it's just like people don't have an appreciation. A lot of folks don't know about why they should have an appreciation for stuff like that. So to be able to have some brothers that can relate to that as James said, that you can hear the excitement in someone's voice, that you found a piece of information, and why they're excited, because that when you found something like that, or you've been in a similar situation and you've been excited too, it really reaffirms why you do what you do. Because sometimes it's just it can be hard out there. Hard out there for a researcher. Hard out there for a researcher.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was just dealing with that. I was just dealing with that recently for, another organization um, that I'm a part of, um, the Grand United Order of Odd Fellows, and doing, just doing the research on Odd Fellows, and building that building that connection, like building that bridge. And I think what a lot of us, we always find that there's always going to be some type of connection. So how do we bridge that connection? So one of the things that I was looking at, that I found, that one of our Jewel founders, myself and Brother Morgan, one of our Jewel founders, his father was not only a Prince Hall Mason, but an Odd Fellow as well. And not only that, because of his career, he did a lot of traveling, and he traveled and he stayed for a while in Rock Hill, South Carolina, which is like 20-25 minutes away from me. So, and my Odd Fellows Lodge is stationed in Rock Hill. So just trying to look that up, and asking another brother who's deep in research. Shout out to brother Emmanuel Supreme Page. But when like you said, just that one piece of information can lead you down 6 7 different rabbit holes, and there you go, you find something else, and then you find one other thing, and you find one other thing, and next thing like you're putting so many other pieces together, that it just it intrigues you to want to do more. So it's a beautiful thing. And one thing I could say, as far as friendships, um it's amazing how you can have this type of friendship where we don't see each other on a regular basis, but what I'm saying, like, we know so much about each other, and we know, like, the ins and outs, what I'm saying, of each other. And what I'm saying, and we're in different parts of the country. I'm still not convinced that Kathy exists. He's still a scroll. I'm going to say that till I lay eyes on him. But yeah, just the fact that we've not only influenced others, but we've influenced ourselves, each other in different ways, really is what makes this show what it is.
So the craft has changed over the last 10 seasons of the show. I think we went through a pandemic, and it's like, okay, how do our realities? Some of our realities have changed because of that. We did a couple episodes in regards to how jurisdictions handled the pandemic. A lot of new online different things are taking place within craft. So, I mean, where do you see? I guess going back to our, that original show, so that first episode, like I said earlier, the Corey Adams Lodge of Research, when we conducted that and we said we were going to take stock of, Prince Hall Freemasonry, primarily we were looking backwards, but looking forward, over the next decade, um, where do you see Prince Hall Freemasonry going? And then where do you see not only our show, but, and James alluded to this earlier too, but the other shows that have, developed out of, what we've done, or since we started this, what role will shows like this play within the craft?
I'll take that. I would say two things. One is that um, I don't think it's a secret that there are some major issues and challenges, and even major issues of infighting across the board in Prince Hall Freemasonry. And I think it's kind of ironic. It's not our fault, but our show kind of came about at a time when some of those major issues, reared their heads, and have kind of gone on. And we've largely stayed out of the fray of some of those things. But my hope is that as an organization is that we find solutions that can heal some of those wounds, because the truth of the matter is that regardless of anything, when we fight each other we lose, right? So it's my hope that some of those issues that exist, both internally within jurisdictions and what have you, and across, the board, that those things can be healed, because Prince Hall Freemasonry can be a stronger entity for good in the world. And as far as shows like ours, platforms like ours, it's my hope that we can be um, a kind of a voice for those brothers and sisters who are not, as of yet, elected to high offices and what have you, right? While each of us here has served as worshipful master of our lodges, we're not, the grandmasters or anything of that nature. But it is my hope that we can serve as a platform to show not just our show but other shows, but to show our leadership that the membership not only is watching but is hopeful that they will make the right decisions, continue making the right decisions for us, and that we can grow this thing and not be an organization that at some point in time, my grandchildren will look up and say, what was that Prince Hall Masonry stuff that Granddaddy used to do? What was that about? My hope is that they'll say, oh, this is still a viable organization and something that maybe they even want to participate in. But the only way that happens is by us um, being mature adults and handling our business. That's my sincerest hope for Prince Hall Freemasonry over the next 10 years and beyond.
In my opinion, so I think that we look at the future. Obviously, this stuff has changed now the last 10 years, as you stated earlier. I think it was just last week or maybe week before last. The Georgia Council deliberation just started their it's like an online study hall, kind of sort of. So this stuff hadn't existed before, but now they're using these type of tools that we have, such as Zoom and Teams and whatever else, to do education. And then Davey helped me out there. I know at least one lodge in Michigan, and I know another. I've heard another one in the one in New York. And I think we were both on that one. Where they were starting to use Zoom for education. And then you have the Alaska New York Right, which is led by most versatile Abdullah or Mustafa Thomas, with the amount of study halls that they have on a weekly basis, and is mostly facilitated by Brother Malcolm Free. They're using these tools, these Zoom and everything else, to provide this type of education, because people have different work lives. I may work the night shift and I can't attend the lodge meeting, or I have X, Y, and Z going on and I can't attend whatever. But at some point in time, I may be able to, even if I'm at work, I may be able to, stick my phone out and go watch the study hall or this presentation that you're doing online. So that's where I see the future is. I believe our leadership are learning to use these tools, as Brother Kathy just said, that it went from the printing press to the typewriter. And so now we went to these old the old school brick and mortar buildings to now bringing this stuff kind of online to help enhance education. So I just think there's going to be more of that. There's probably going to be more shows. More brothers that start their own show, more jurisdictions that look at incorporating online learning to some aspect. So that's where I see the future of Prince Hall Masonry going.
I think when we talk about the future of Prince Hall Masonry, or even Masonry in general, um, the one word that Brother Caffey said he was going to use throughout the night, that word platform, right? And in anything that you do, there are going to be some pros and there are going to be some cons. One of the biggest things that really came out of the pandemic was the fact that you either change or you're going to be changed. Only one of those things you can control, right? And so we as just not just as an organization, but as a society was controlled by this change, because it was like, how do we continue to move, in the situation that we're in? And so because of that, you had um, uh, lodges like Doric 53 in the jurisdiction of New York, the Grand Lodge of Nova Scotia, led by past Grandmaster George Grant, North Star Lodge #1 in Illinois, um, St. Mark's #4, Michigan. So, you have those who picked up the mantle and say, okay, let's do this. Let's continue to, to move this forward. And when you think about it, like Dave talked about, um, when we had these meetings virtually, look at the amount of participation that you had. You had a lot more participation, like you said, for those who couldn't make it, for those who had their work, their different work lives, but could jump on and say, hey, let's do X, Y, and Z. Of course, there's a con that comes to it. Because of that, you get adjusted to it. You miss out on the ritualistic aspects of the work. And so you have to, like anything, you have to find a healthy balance. But when it comes to understanding that 10 years from now, there'll probably be a bigger platform than this. Everything that right now is at the touch of our fingertips, right? And everything. So how do we move forward with that? Does Should everybody have a platform? No. But I will say that. But it's all in how you use it, all in how you use the platform. And hopefully we have been showing the positive ways that we could use our platform. When we look back in history, the John Wesley Dobbs, the James E. Shepherds, the Martin Delaney's at the time, the platform that they had with just being worthy brothers, grandmasters, so on and so forth. They used their platform to push forward an agenda, and a positive agenda. So the thing is about now is about moving forward. We can't you can't look back. You can't look back, because that you can look back to see where we came from, but so many have been saying, well, how do we get back to the way things were? You can't do that, because at the end of the day, when you look back to the where you were, look at what you've lost, and in the meantime, and you can't get back what you lost. So the question is, how do we move forward? So I think in moving forward, I think this platform that we have, and in the day and age of technology, will continue to move forward in that aspect, as long as we don't lose the traditions, the customs, and usages of the organization. I think we'll always be headed in the right direction.
Yeah, great. Thanks, brother. So one of the favorite throughout the years, one of my favorite parts of the show has always been hearing from our viewers that tuned in, took time out of their day to tune in to the show. So, James, do we have any comments or questions or anything from those that's viewing us tonight?
We got some real positive feedback. We actually have one here from Brother Preston Collins Jr. He said, "Congrats on 10 years, brethren. Proud to have been part of this amazing platform." Excuse me. Pardon me. But that definitely is well received from Brother Collins. We miss you, and we hope that you're doing well. As I mentioned earlier, most worshipful past Grandmaster Shackelford is the jurisdiction of Georgia. He says, "I remember when." Salute to all of you for this platform and expanding the Prince Hall brand. Salute from Most Worshipful Past Grandmaster Corey Shackelford Sr. of the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Georgia. We greatly appreciate that. We also have tonight, we want to acknowledge Most Worshipful Grandmaster Lester Arnold of the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of the Caribbean for being on. Thank you, Most Worshipful Sir, for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here with us this evening as well. One thing that I'm actually kind of surprised. I don't think we talked about too much, but Shark Sai said doing shows on the history of states are my favorite. I would have petitioned the clandestine lodge had I not seen the episode on the history of Florida. And I think it's been a little while since we did a state episode, but I definitely think that that's one of those, and that Florida one is definitely a um a favorite of mine as well. Shout out to brother Curtis Black because he brought some heat that night. Um, but yeah, no, I think that's definitely a series that we did that and I think we should maybe consider picking back up. That really I think helps set us apart from some of the other shows that are out there, what have you, for sure.
Yeah,
Any thoughts on that, brothers?
yeah. Especially that Florida episode. Myself and Past Master Black talked quite a bit leading up to that show, and we were sharing research from each other. And one thing, if you go back and watch it, my presentation was called "Through the Fire," which is a reference to the Great Fire of Jacksonville in 1901, which affected that Grand Lodge and, more importantly, their records. So, because of that, they would have never known, and I don't think it was ever written anywhere where Georgia had chartered a lodge in Florida. Um, but we were able to use some of that information, and because of that show, to my understanding, Florida was able to revamp a lot of their Grand Lodge history. So that one was definitely a very important one. And as always, we put in a lot of work to pull that show together.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, I mean, and Florida is just but one of the states that we've done. I don't remember all of them, but I know we've done Pennsylvania. I believe we got. I want to say we did. Did we do Texas? I want to say we did Texas. I know we did Oklahoma because we had brother Darrell Hodge on. So we've done several others out there. I know we did California as well. So that may be something that we need to revisit. So thank you to brother Sharkside for bringing that up for sure. Brother Caffey.
Thanks. So as we wrap up this evening, I just want to again thank these brothers before I let these brothers give their closing comments. But again, each of you brothers are very special to me. You've carried the show for all these years. Our past past panelists as well. And again, like I stated up front, we definitely wouldn't be where we're at without your diligence. Each of you, and it's wild because each of you brings something different, and it fits like a puzzle, like for the overall team. And it really drives what we're doing. So very very grateful. But closing comments. Let's start out with Brother Jack.
Oh, as always, I thank the audience for the greatest gift that you could ever give, which is your time, because that's something that you cannot get back. Um, I do want to give give a shout out, as much of a special day that this is. This is also a somber day. 3 years ago today, lost a very good friend and brother. When I started being a panelist on the think tank, I actually would do the shows at his house. He had a office that I would do his shows at. And as a matter of fact, if you go back to the Royal and Select show at the end, of course, I did my usual joke to Dave about the Knicks because I think his computer was froze at the time, and so my man being from Brooklyn and being a Knicks fan as well, he had bought a Knicks decal and put it behind my head, and so and so that made him happy. So I want to give a shout out and continue to rest in peace to my brother and friend Timothy Paulin of Myersville 687. Love you and miss you. Um, 10 years. I mean, time. I think James and I know of a little line where they say college days swiftly pass, and when we think about time and we learn about just how fast time goes, a blink of an eye is an understatement. And who knew that 10 years, this show would still be here, still be standing, and be a catalyst for a lot of brothers and for a lot of sisters as well. So just to be a part of it, to be a part of this history, I am completely humbled and appreciative. Thank you to James, to Dave, to Calf. I appreciate you all for allowing me to be in this space with you and enjoy this ride with you. Looking forward to what we have to bring, to this 10th season. We're gonna bring a lot of heat as always, and let's keep it going. So thank you as always, and looking forward to the next one.
Indeed. Brother Morgan.
Yeah, so 10 years in, and we're still standing. Um, Again, I would just say that, this show means a lot to me, as does the audience. I have grown quite a bit. Um, and you all have been right there with me. As many of you all know, I'm actually actively pursuing my PhD at this time, and you all were very supportive of me with my master's, with my master's program, and so I'm just very very grateful and humbled to have been a part of this wonderful platform. As I'm getting ready to enter into dissertation phases and things of that nature, I may end up not being on the show as much, as we get ready to as we get into this season, and whatnot, and whatnot. But my hope for this show, sincerely, is that we will also be able to find brothers and sisters to replace us, as time goes on, and as we continue to mature and do other things. And so that's my clarion call to those, as they say in the church. If it's on your heart, the doors of the church are open, and so I'm looking forward to 2, 3, 4 generations of Prince Hall think tank hosts in the future. We just opened the door. We've been around long enough that now I started to notice, I'll come up with an idea for something and say, "Hey, brothers, have we done this? I think we should do this episode." And the brothers will say, "Yeah, we did that already." And I say, "What? When?" And then I go back and look like, "Dang, I was on that episode." Um, so what does that tell us? It tells us that that new people bring new ideas, right? And so I'm very hopeful that at some point in time we will begin to also rotate out some of the brothers who are on here now, particularly myself, Dave, and brother Caffey. But that new faces will emerge, and that this platform will keep going into the future. That's my sincerest hope and prayer. But beyond that, everybody take care and be blessed. And also, I want to thank everybody for the birthday well wishes that I received last week. I was very appreciative of that. So thank you and God bless.
Thank you, brother. Brother Gillarm.
Yeah, as always, definitely looking forward to this upcoming season. Man, we have some great shows that's planned out, and I'm just looking forward to them. Some of the things that I'm also looking forward to, like James stated, looking to see new faces. I would definitely love to see a regular show like we did with our OES takeover, and for the OES side to do something similar. I think it would be great. Our sisters have some amazing things, whether it's historic, esoteric, whatever you have it. Um, they have a story to tell, and I believe that they have the personnel to tell it. Um, Going stuff that we said earlier, all of us, are pretty much very humble. Couple of months ago, well, last month, I think it was last month. I was hit up by a brother from the Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Tennessee. They needed help with getting their lodge designated as a historic building, and I told him I ain't hesitate at helping at all. I was honored to help. And when I started talking in the middle of the conversation, he's like, "Hold up, You Dave Gillum from the Prince Hall think tank? And it kind of just blew me away that somebody was able to just recognize my voice. But I was able to provide, a little, I was be able to provide some assistance to them, and they are well on the way of getting their lodge designated as a historic building. And we were able to find years of their lodge history that was already in newspapers. So when he said, "Man, I can't believe this stuff has been here all this time," I tried to tell him that, as we stated before on previous shows, when it comes to research, the brothers back then did the exact same stuff that we kind of do now, where we put stuff on social media, they put stuff in the newspaper. So for you researchers out there, go find them old newspapers. You'll find tons of information. And I was kind of conflicted about doing this last part, but since we're talking about throwbacks, I have to get a throwback to old Kid Collins, because every time he logged on, he had to have Sweet Home Alabama playing. And even though I'm a member of the Prince Hall, Carolina, Georgia, I've been living in the state of Alabama since 2009. And the Crimson Tide just beat the Georgia Bulldogs last night. So I'm not a fan of the Crimson Tide, but I had to shout out to my good brother and friend Ken Collins. And as always, go Knicks. We just got Carl Anthony Towns. So I know what time it is this year.
Hey, here's a funny thing. I don't know if you've known it, but if or noticed it or not, but if you've looked at the show, you probably picked up on it. Literally, as Dave was talking, I could look at Damien. Damien had this look on his face like, when is he gonna say it? When are you gonna say it? He had this expression like, it's coming. Like, how is he gonna fit it in? Because usually, if you don't know, Dave is a master storyteller too. I mean, as far as when you Dave tell a story as far as a Masonic story, like he pulls you in, and like that when we did the video about Horus King down there, and like how you present it, and then when you did the about King and talking to the lot, like he has the ability to craft a story to where he pulls you in. It's like you hang on his words. But I literally could look at Damien like he's gonna somehow weave this in. And I'm trying to figure out how.
You know what's coming. And the best comment was missed by James. It came from Preston Collins, brother Preston Collins, where what he said 10 years later, and the Knicks are still trash. I mean, I just
well, I definitely missed that, because if I would have saw that, would have been the first thing. We gotta start the show over. We gotta start the whole show over and go back to that.
Thank you, brothers. I appreciate you all, and we mentioned it here and there tonight, but I really want to give a major shout out to our viewers over the years, because there's no way we would have been able to do this and sustain it the way that we have if it wasn't for you. So again, thank you all for continuing to believe in us, continuing to tune in, continuing to share our videos, and utilize our videos to add on to your knowledge as well. And lastly, I really want to emphasize and to I agree 100% with what Brother Morgan said in regards to that next generation of researchers, and us, continuing like we have a lineage, and you hear a lot of us talk about blue light, PHA research back in the day, how it's just, in Joseph Walks, Charles Wesley, there's just this lineage of Prince Hall researchers that's been passed down, and we position ourselves to pass on the legacy of this to that next generation. So we're looking for you. As always, if you need any assistance or help, get in contact with us so that we can offer you what knowledge we have. We don't try to hide it or keep it from folks. We're open source when it comes to helping folks. So again, thank you for tuning in tonight. And as always, let's remember to teach masonry in our lodges. Have a good evening.